Today is just an introduction to acrylic and what you can do with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my gloves on. I'm going to take the upper model that we're going to be using to demonstrate the salt and pepper technique. I'm going to separate it, put it in the water and soak it. And the reason I put it in the water to soak it is so the acrylic doesn't stick to it after we're done pouring it up. So today we have a brand new bottle of the liquid monomer, and I'm going to pour it into our little glass bottle with the dropper. Now, these things are made tall and skinny. And typically what I do is I'll take a little styrofoam plate and mix some plaster and pour it in the plate and set it down in it to make a wider base. Because if you're going to grab the dropper to add liquid, typically what you'll do is you'll get in such a routine, you'll go to get it and spill the monomer, which is wasteful. And it's not, not done intentional, but it's just the shape of the bottle. So I'll make a base on it so that that doesn't happen to save cost. So I'm just going to add a little bit. We've put down our bib so that we can soak up the excess. And now I'm going to squeeze it and release so the monomer will go up. All right, so after like 5 minutes of having the model soak in the water, I'm going to grab the powder, which is called polymer. The liquid is monomer, so monomer plus polymer equals acrylic. This is called the salt and pepper technique. I'm going to take a little bit of the monomer, just kind of sprinkle it on there. And you want to make sure you don't get the tip of this wet, because just like a salt shaker, it'll clog it up. And I'm going to add a little bit on the right side. And I'm not going to drop it from here, because watch what happens. It plops down and pushes all of the acrylic away. So I'm going to let it seep down or hold it right on top and gently let it absorb the monomer. Pepper it in again. And again, this is called the salt and pepper technique. And this is just to get you guys used to working with the monomer and polymer. And you can make retainers, flippers, splints. And now we're going to move around to the other side. And I don't want to add too much liquid where it starts to run and slump. So sometimes I'll add a little bit of powder to make sure that doesn't happen while I'm working on the other side. And you're just building layers. And you want to try to get an even layer. You don't want to have it thick in one area and too thin in another. And just keep in mind, the more acrylic you add, the more you're going to have to trim away later. And you don't want to fill in the whole palette, because if you look at the shape of retainer, it really, you have your second molars back here. You need to keep in mind that if you make it too far back, you're going to activate the gag reflex. I'm going to give the other side some attention. And just kind of taking it back and forth. And I am going to make this one a little bit thick, so we'll have more material to work with when I do the part 2 of trimming the acrylic and preparing it for the patient. Because some of the things I want to go over is, if I'm making this retainer for a 5th grader that's going between phase 1 and phase 2, I'm going to make it thicker, because kids get used to things a lot easier than adults. If I'm making it for an adult, I'm going to make it a little bit thinner, because adults take care of their stuff too. They don't. I don't have to worry about them, with the wear and tear on it. But with kids, you want to make it a little bit more durable. And with adults having to, keep their retainer in while they're answering phones at work or giving speeches, it'll make it a lot easier for them. And then we'll get into some how to put some pretty designs in it. Now, the more you sculpt this while it's pliable, the easier it's going to be to finish. So while it's in this stage, I am going to grab an instrument and show you how to kind of go around it and shape the palette. So rather than having all of this there, you can take and just kind of dig out the U-shaped area for it. And I feel like that's a little thin, so I'm going to add some more polymer. That's looking pretty good. Now we're gonna put it in the water and come back in 20 minutes, and that salt and pepper combined is going to harden and make acrylic. This is one of the splints I made, but instead of having it out and just salt and pepper, you build a little bit, and you want to tap it and adjust the pin height, and we'll go over specifics on how to make splints. But you want to have it where all of the teeth are touching at the same time. And so with that, you have to have your AccuFilm so that you can check the bite. So that's a little more detailed, and we'll go into that in another video. So we'll come back in 20 minutes and see how that's doing.